Data sets from large-scale multi-country surveys typically have missing data. In this paper, we arrive at imputed values without an a priori theoretical distribution. We have been working on the National Identity 3 module of the International Social Survey Program, a 34-country data set with 44,906 citizen respondents. The survey asks about what people consider as important for being truly of a nationality. People who subscribe to the ethnocultural view believe that to have a particular national identity, a person must have the nation's dominant ancestry, must speak the nation's dominant language, and must belong to the nation's dominant religion. People who subscribe to the legitimization view believe that a person must have been born in the country, have the nation's citizenship, and have lived in the country for most of one's life. There is a third view, the civic view. To have a particular national identity, a person must respect the nation's political institutions and laws, and must feel oneself to belong to the nation. We have looked at how the ethnocultural and legitimization views make citizens less receptive to immigrant cultures than does the civic view. On the average, the percentage of missing data from the ethnocultural items is 2.5%. For the legitimization items, 1.8%. For the civic items, 2.3%. And for the immigrant culture's receptivity items, 5.1%. Only 87% of the respondents had complete records. Typical imputation methods use a closed-form solution derived from an assumed theoretical probability distribution, often the normal or multivariate normal distribution. Because the missing data are never known, the imputed values cannot be compared to the actual values to determine imputation accuracy. Consider the item that asks whether being of white ancestry is important for a person to be truly American, or analogous items for other countries. Let's call this item the ancestry item, labeled E1 in the slide. Imputing values on missing data, we use data on the other ethnocultural items. There may also be some systematic pattern in which respondents answer the ancestry item and the legitimization, civic, and receptivity items. Then, we can also use this data in the imputation. People from different countries may have different response patterns, and thus, country membership is incorporated in the imputation procedure. How is each missing datum on the ancestry item replaced? Instead of using a formula based on an a priori probability distribution, we derive the imputed values from the response patterns of citizens who answered the ancestry item. These are randomly apportioned into two. 35,000 are used to learn the response patterns. Let's call this the training data. The remaining data are used as test data. For this test data, the imputed values are compared with the actual values. Values to replace the missing data on the ancestry item are obtained through this procedure. The input data and the output data are part of a neural network. The generation of output from the input data is through interconnected layers of nodes or neurons called hidden layers. In the slide, I show only one hidden layer. With the first hidden layer connected to the input data, and the last hidden layer connected to the output data. Traveling of information from input to output happens through a pattern of activation from a preceding layer to a subsequent layer, from each node to each subsequent node. The pattern of activations is defined by a collection of weights. When can we say that a neural network has learned the covariations among the variables? A common algorithm is the backpropagation, where forward flows of activation are sent back to earlier layers, thereby monitoring the adequacy of predictions, the loss function, through a number of epochs. Subsequent changes in the pattern of activations are toward minimizing the loss function. I have described the procedure in general terms. The technical details and citations of sources are in the proceedings. How well have the networks learned? The neural networks correctly imputed, on the average, 64, 68, 68, and 46% of the test data for the ethnocultural, legitimization, civic, and receptivity items, respectively. Although the imputation accuracies were low, the correlations between actual and imputed values were large, averaging 0.63, 0.64, 0.51, and 0.43 across the different categories of items. Furthermore, for the national identity items which were on the 4-point scale, 94, 97, and 96% of inaccurately imputed values differed from the actual values by 0.5 or a point. For the receptivity items which were on a 5-point scale, 93% of inaccurately imputed values differed from the actual values by 1 or 2 points. A much smaller percentage had larger discrepancies. The results of the demonstrated imputations suggest some imputation errors with complex data sets. We are currently examining covariations specific to some countries and see if these are being picked up by the network's activation patterns, thus leading to differentiated imputations. We are also currently using the data with imputed values in our research on diversity and social inclusion. Thank you.